Right. Okay. Well, I'm going to get started. I think anyone that joins a bit later on, they can just jump in as we go. So first of all, welcome. Thank you very much for taking the time out to listen to me and to hopefully take something away from today's presentation and webinar. I'm just looking out the window, and the weather is a little bit different from the last few weeks. So I suppose we're all inside now and focusing maybe on what we're trying to do with our businesses and seeing what the future holds and how we can prepare ourselves for when lockdown finally starts to be released in some form. So this is a slide from Boost for those that haven't been on a webinar before. You may or may not know, but as a result of the coronavirus pandemic, Boost Lancashire is refocusing its efforts from growth support to business resilience. And that's because of obviously the significant impact that coronavirus has had on our economy and on small businesses in Lancashire. So they've set up Ask for Help. That's hashtag Ask for Help. And if you're on social media in any way, you'll have seen this. I'm sure you will have, because this is about they've been very, very active, and they're there to help. I can wholeheartedly endorse and recommend the support that Boost Lancashire can give small businesses. We use them in my business and have done, and have had great benefit from it. So if you are in any way looking for any business support, have any questions or queries, give them a ring, and they'll be there to help you. Okay, so let's get cracking. Thank you, and hopefully I'm going to help you think about being more productive, getting more out of your time. And I didn't want to I want to talk to you about how to manage your time and manage projects. So you'll leave this webinar knowing the difference between waterfall and agile project management. You'll think, oh God, this is not what I signed up for. Don't worry, this is not a lesson on project management. What this is doing is showing how actually you can get more, you can do more with the time that you have by working and prioritizing things in a different way. So this is something that we've done in our business, and it's very popular in the digital sphere, but it's incredibly applicable across all types of businesses. And you've got to bear with me. It is something that's certainly worth considering, and certainly worth trialing if productivity and productivity improvement is something that you are keen to do, and how adopting some of these techniques can dramatically improve your productivity, what a Kanban board is and how it can help those that don't know, and then the software tools that are available to help deliver productivity or help you achieve productivity. Because many of you will be small businesses, many of you will be one-man bands, one-lady bands. So you'll think, hang on, how is this applicable to me and my business? Well, it certainly is, because I use it not only in my professional life, but I also use it in my personal life in terms of getting things done, because it's a really, really powerful way of getting things done. And we're all in the business of doing more with less, getting more out of the time that we have allocated to us. So bear with me, and hopefully I can share some really insightful things that you could take into your businesses and give it a shot, because you might have some extra time on your hands to think about this in a different way. So before I get started, I'll tell you a bit about me. I'm a business owner. I own a company with a business partner. It's called Blue Wren. We're a software and website company. We won the Digital Business of the Year in the Red Rose Awards this year. Didn't get to go to the party, unfortunately, the winners' party, because it was cancelled. But anyway, we have 14 staff. We are 10 years old. We were 10 years old last month. And we are productivity and process improvement specialists. It's something that we do for the customers that we work for. So we build software that helps with their productivity. But more importantly, it's something that we've always looked at in our business. How can we become more productive? How can we get more from less? And that is looking at the way that we work individually and the way that we work collectively. And this is why what I'm about to tell you has really had a big, big impact on how we have grown and how we've become more productive, but also the evidence I've seen in many other businesses as well. And you'll have heard it, I don't know if you've been around technology businesses, but you'll have heard, oh, we are agile. But many people will say that, and many people won't know what agile means. And it's not necessarily relevant to be calling it agile. It's just a way of working, and I'm sure you'll have come across it in some way or another in your working life anyway. So this is the difference in project management speak: agile versus waterfall. So when you're delivering a project, or when you're delivering a piece of work or something, the typical thing, or the thing that we're all familiar with, is the waterfall, which is listing your tasks down the left, the dates across the top, and selecting a time that they will be done. And it tends to be a sequential list of, I will do this, and then I will carry on with task 1, I'll do the task 2. And that's a Gantt chart. We've all seen them before. We've all used them probably before in our business lives, and they've never ever worked, have they? They've always failed in terms of, if you started on day 1 with your Gantt chart, and when it comes to the end of the project, it never goes to plan. And that is just because, how can you expect to know everything that you need to do, or every scenario, or every element of the project from day 1? You can't hope to do that, and that is why the waterfall fails. It looks great. It gives customers and suppliers and your colleagues confidence. Oh, I know you know what you're doing because you've set it all out in this nice plan. But in terms of it being accurate and being something that you can work to, it doesn't work because of all of these variables that happen that you cannot foresee, because you're not a soothsayer. You can't see into the future. What Agile does, and Agile is the below, it doesn't pretend to forecast time against specific tasks. It doesn't pretend to set out everything, on day 1. It makes you concentrate on what you have to do to get the thing done as quickly as possible. So it focuses on the most important things. So there are some flaws with Agile as much as there is waterfall, because if you say, for example, you win a job with a customer, in whatever you do, and the customer says, okay, I want to know when it's going to be done by. So you'll produce some brilliant Gantt chart and say it's going to be done by this date because I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this in this sequential order, but you fail because you inevitably will fail. Agile still can't really predict when you're going to get it done. It will just say, I will get it done as quickly as I possibly can. So you have to use, and we have to use our experience from previous projects. We have to use a way of scoring tasks to try and estimate, but it's still an imperfect science, and people generally will overestimate what they can do in the time allowed. We can only really see 2 weeks ahead. Just think about coronavirus and the lockdown. They've worked to 3-week blocks, haven't they? Because after 3 weeks, we can't identify, we can't specify things ahead of us. So we can't predict what's going to happen. We just think, oh, in 3 weeks' time, it'll all be okay. But actually, when 3 weeks, we get to 3 weeks, it can't. So we work, that's how it works. You only focus on that week. You only focus on 1 week or 2 week blocks and try and achieve what you set out to achieve, and then you move on to the next. So I'm going to show you and give you some background about how you can go and do this, because it's not just for technology companies, it's not just for digital projects, it's not just for projects in themselves, it's the way that you work. It's the way that you organize your time, and the way that you organize your day and your week and your months, and it does help because it makes you focus. That is the most important thing. It makes you focused on the things that you need to do. So moving along, if this works. Okay, so a bit about Agile. Oh, I've just said it. It helps you focus on the most important things, because that is the emphasis. Do the thing that's most important first. It's easy to coordinate remotely. So if you are working with a team who are remote working, it's very easy to coordinate a simple task list, because that's what it is. It's just a simple task list, and it's order of priorities. People who are working on a project or working on something, they just need to know what they're doing now. And then it's up to you as the sort of project manager or to coordinate what's the backlog. And likewise, it's easy for the customer or your client to see the status of the project. Because if you have a Gantt chart and you say, well, where we are on the Gantt chart, well, actually, well, we've done a bit of this one, bit of task one, we had to stop, so we've moved to past task 2 and moved past task 3. You get very muddled very quickly. Yet, with Agile, you're saying, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this. That's done. These are the things we're working on now, and these are the things we're working on next. And the customer and client can see very, very clearly what's being done. It's really good to coordinate things. It's very good for accountability, because you can assign a individual a particular task, because what you're doing in Agile is you're breaking down the job into bite-sized chunks. And that bite-sized chunk, whatever it might be, is something that is an individual is responsible for, or a number of people are responsible for, but you have a leader on that task or that activity. So it's very good to see who's responsible for that. And if it's just you, fine. And there's no need to go full-blown Agile. You don't have to be and follow all the different Agile parts of the methodology. You just have to think about some of the techniques and the principles that underpin it. And it's all about focusing on the most important things first and getting them done before you can move to the next thing, really. We will come on to that. I'm going to show you how to do it and how you might want to plan it, because it's really powerful. The other thing is about Agile is it's all about checking and re-evaluating all the way through. You don't set out the plan on day one and stick to that same plan all the way through. You have to change it all the time, because things change and plans change. And what you have to do is you have to check and review every single day. So you have to ask yourself a question every day. Now, if you're working as a team, you have them as a team, a stand-up, a team daily stand-up. You may well have heard of those. And that happens every day in our business for every project that we're working on. The team that is responsible for delivering that project has a stand-up, no more than 10 minutes every single day. And they answer 3 very simple questions. What did I do yesterday? What got in the way? What am I doing today? That's it. And so if you haven't got a team and you're working for yourself, you have to make yourself accountable to say, what did I do yesterday? What got in the way, and what am I doing today? And if you're doing this every single day, you have to check it every single day, because by day 3, if that same thing that you were doing yesterday is what you're still doing today, and you actually have never got it done, it starts to sort of weigh on you. Think, hang on a minute, I'm supposed to be doing the most important things first, and I'm getting waylaid by distraction, and for 3 days I haven't got to this task, this activity. It focuses your mind, and it's a really powerful way just to keep you on track to achieve this project or this outcome as quickly as possible. And that's what it's all about. We're trying to get through something as quickly as possible to make you as efficient and productive as you possibly can. So it's all about returning back to, what did you say you were going to do yesterday? Did you do it? If you didn't, what got in the way? How can we unblock it? And it might be, oh, I was on emails all the time, or, I'm working from home and the broadband went off. These things can't be helped. These things happen. But then what am I doing today? If, for example, what did I do yesterday? I didn't get it done. What got in the way? I was looking at the internet. You suddenly start to realize that, hang on, I need to focus on this. And it's really powerful for our business, especially if you're doing it as a team, because it makes you look pretty stupid if you come to the stand-up every day and you're still on the same task. And your team and your colleagues hold you to account very, very quickly, let me tell you. So how would you, in your business, in your small businesses, or in your own, as a one-man band, how would you likely adopt some Agile techniques? So choose a project, or choose an activity, choose something that you do. So say, for example, you're a PR company and you've got a campaign for a customer. And that campaign is made up of all sorts of different things. So it might be press release, talking to the press, running an event, etc., etc. Now, these are things that you would normally put on a sort of spreadsheet, and you would give a date block of when you would do it in a nice Gantt chart. Think of it in a different way. Think of writing down, without even starting to think about when to do it, all the things that you would need to do in order to complete the project, complete the campaign. Now, you don't have to think of them all because things will crop up, but think about what you have to do. Right, you have to contact press representatives of different magazines, so you might list all the magazines. You have to write, get some stories on some topics for some stories and do some research. You might have to write the first draft of those stories and then get it approved by the customer, by the client. You then might have to publish or get those stories published. You then might have to run an event or do some PR. You have things in your plan, but there will also be things that will pop up. If you're a PR company, you've got to be reactive, don't you? Really, really quickly. So you can allow for that in Agile as well. So you need to backlog all your activities to complete a project. Then you need to prioritize them in the order of importance. And this is really, really key to Agile, because we as humans, we are like water. We will follow the path of least resistance. We will like to do the easy things first, the things that we make us comfortable. The tricky things are not necessarily the things we will do first. We'll put them off, we'll procrastinate. And they might be the most important. They might be the things that will hold back the entire job. So for example, a tricky thing might be, you've won a client, but you need to actually get some sort of commitment, financial commitment from that client before you go off and do all this work. Because if you don't have that financial commitment, i.e. a contract or a purchase order or a deposit, if you don't have that, you might be investing in, all your time in delivering this work, and then it might be put at risk. But it's a difficult thing to do, to really hold someone down, because you don't want to, you feel that it's a sort of a difficult conversation. So many businesses do it. It happens all the time, is that they'll put it off. And they'll think, oh, actually, no, let me do the start work and demonstrate my value. And then they'll send an invoice and be okay. So the most important thing is the project funded. You're a business. You're not a charity. You're a business. You need to make sure that is the first thing you do. Get that thing funded. Make sure you're guaranteed you're going to get paid for this in some way, as guaranteed as you possibly can, and make that the most important task. You put that at the top, and then the other tasks or the other activities of the project come below those. So it's those sorts of, so prioritize them in the order of importance. And then this is really important. Work on the activities until they are done. So you will have it'd be quite common, and it happens with us still. We'll have a list of 10 things to do. Even in a day or in a week, we'll have a list of 10 things to do, and we'll start on one thing and we'll get into it. We might, it might be to write a blog. I need to write a blog for my website, so I start the blog, blah blah blah, and then 3/4 of the way through, I'm not feeling it, as my daughter would say. You're not feeling the vibe, so I'll move on to the next task. I'll come back to that. And what will inevitably happen is that you will have a list of 10 things, and at the end of your period of time, so that might be the day or the week, you will have 90% done of 10 things and 0% done of anything. And that creates a huge amount of waste. That's what it's all about, reducing waste. And it's a really, really important thing that you focus on something until it's done. Now, there will be occasions where it gets blocked. You can't do it. You can't go any further. You have to move on to the next task or the next activity. But half done is not done. That is so important, because if you focus on one thing until it's done and then move it on, you become so much more efficient, so much more efficient. So it's really important to have that discipline. Say, no, I'm not going to switch and jump around and try and do things just to keep everything up in the air. If I can, I'm going to focus on something until it's done. But the fact that you've chosen the most important thing to do first means you've got to get that done. So it's no point choosing something 4 or 5 steps down, because there's 4 or 5 things more important. So why are you working on something which is 5th importance when you haven't finished any of the top 4? So work on activities until they are done. It's a really important discipline. Use a Kanban board, and that is something I'll explain to you in a sec and demonstrate, but it's basically 3 columns. It's your backlog, the list of things to do. It's your doing column, which is what you're working on at that moment, and it's the done column. Doing, to do, doing, done. Simple as that. And that's a Kanban board, and it's just a visual process of moving things along. And then it's a daily review. So a check-in, like I said, as we call them stand-ups, but if it's just yourself, you would just be checking in on yourself to say, right, what am I doing today? What did I do yesterday? What got in the way? What am I doing today? Simple as that. And it's there. Your Kanban board is your to-do list. That's as simple as that. And then the aim is to move all the things from to-do into done. And that is when your project is complete. So you can keep adding more things into to-do in order to take them into done. Also, you can keep recycling tasks. So it might be a regular thing that you have to do in terms of if it's a campaign, you might have to do monthly things, monthly reports. So that comes into doing, and then it goes to done, but it comes back into to do. You don't have to physically do it, but if you know what I mean. And use Post-it notes if you want, or use a whiteboard, or use software tools. And I'll talk to you about the software tools that you can use as well. So here is an example Kanban board. And I've chosen the theme of a wedding. Okay, so everyone loves a wedding, and if they're a very stressful thing. So yourself and your partner, so husband, wife to be, will there, and you've got a lot of things to get through. And over a period of time, you've got to get through them all. So you sit down and you list all the things that you need to do in order to deliver a successful wedding as the bride and groom. Now, I've put bride and groom in there at the top just to be a bit facetious. But yeah, you need a bride and groom to get married. So that's one of the things. You need funds, you need to be able to pay for it, you need the reception venue, you need flowers, marriage license, guest list, invitations. So these are the things, this is a brain dump. These are all the things I think I need to do in order to get this thing done. So that's just the list. That's the first stage. It's all the to do. I've not done anything yet. Now I need to, next stage is now I need to prioritize. What are the most important things that I need to do in order to move this through and get this activity done? So I prioritize and I bring across to doing. I need to get the bride and groom done. Yeah. I need to find the funds in order to pay for it. I need a marriage license. Otherwise I can't get married. And I need a reception venue, because if without the reception venue, I don't know how many guests I can invite. I don't know the entertainment I need. And if I don't know how many guests, I don't know the invitations, etc., etc. You can see how you can easily prioritize. And this is all about focusing on that. So you don't worry about your to do. All you're worried about is doing. Now, in a business context, yeah, I would recommend you pull across your activities in a project or for a week period. We call these sprints in our world. But in a sprint, I will endeavor to deliver everything in my doing column. So I've got a week. We have 2-week sprints in our business, but you have a week. We used to have weeks. So in this week, I will deliver the bride and groom, the funds, the marriage license, the reception venue. And that's all I focus on this week. Nothing else gets in the way. It doesn't mean I can't answer emails, pick up the phone, do other things. But for this project, this is what I'm doing. I know that these are the most important things and I have to focus on this week. And then at the end of the week, all of those should be done. And if they're not, it's my fault. And every day I'm checking to make sure I'm doing it. Okay, so the next stage is, oh crikey, I forgot a number of things. I forgot some things that we couldn't foresee in the future. Save the date cards. Yeah? They weren't a thing when we started this wedding planning, but now they're a thing. Let's get them. So what you do is, that's fine. Plans change, requirements change for a customer and for a client. What you don't do is stop the sprint. You do not stop what you're doing. And that's the rule. Once you've focused on those things, you do them. Yes, there are occasions where you have to stop, but as a rule, don't. Put them into the backlog and say, right, I'll reprioritize them and I'll address them as the next most important thing. Because I've already said the bride and groom, the funds, the reception venue, the marriage license are the most important thing. So save the date cards we need, and they're the next most important thing. But also we need favors, and we need children's entertainment, which we forgot, and they're not that important. So we'll put them down the bottom of the list. Yeah, we'll come back to them. And this to-do list can always be reprioritized. You can always swap it around. All you're focusing on is, in that week that I'm working on something, I'm focusing on the things that are most important. And I believe that those 4 things are the most And my aim is to move them across. So as I get them done, I move them across. And I've talked about working or focusing on the most important things first. But there will be occasions where you get blocks. Like, for example, a marriage license. It's not up to you to get the marriage license. Yes, you can apply for the marriage license, but the council, you know, so the council might not be there. Well, you think, oh, crikey. But it's still really important. So it stays there. It stays there as blocked until it can be unblocked. But it's there. It's still really important. So you don't miss out on those things, and you can move on to the next thing. I know that I've talked about focusing on something till it's done, but there are occasions where you can't, and you have to be able to be flexible and move off something. The reason you try and focus until it's done is because of the time wastage that's created of you coming out of something, refocusing on something else, and coming back to something that hasn't been completed. If you can finish it there and then, do it. So focus on, get them across, and then you're doing your marriage license and your reception venue is the next thing. And then you simply move things across. Then, if at the end of the week, even if there's still things in the doing list that you haven't dragged across, they stay there, yeah? Or they move back to do because they've lost their importance. It's all about reprioritizing or prioritizing the most important thing. What is the most important thing that will enable me to get this project done? And you focus on that, and you break these tasks down into bite-sized chunks. Something with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Something with a start and an end. So save the date cards are sourcing the cards, getting a supplier, getting them printed, sending them out. That's everything. Yeah. So you want to be able to complete that task. And if you need to break a task up, because sending the save the date cards might come much later. So you break that up into a separate task. That's the sort of thing you can do. So I've talked to you about Kanban boards. I've talked to you about Agile as a way of improving productivity and as a way of working. You can still do what you're doing, still do your day-to-day activities, just changing the way that you organize your time and changing the way that you record the project or you record the activity that you're doing. Because it's all about trying to get more out of less, more with your time, and it's really powerful. So there's some software tools that you can use that will help you. You can do it manually, you can do it on a whiteboard, or you can do it with Post-it notes, but there are plenty of software tools out there, and it's a good way to start. And you probably have come across them anyway. You might have even started trialing them as well. But start simple would be my advice. Okay, so that's almost as simple as you can get a wedding with lists of tasks. But you can build out those tasks and you can start to describe who's responsible for it, how much time you want to allocate to it, what the cost is to the customer, what the subtasks are that sit up beneath that activity, etc., etc. But start simple. Just start simple with it. It's just a more sophisticated to-do list for the first few. To make sure that you understand the principle and you are able to follow it in an easy way. Because ultimately, what you don't want to do is spend all your time managing a Kanban board and not doing the work. So it has to be really easy to use. So start simple. If you're using a piece of software, know where your data is and how to access it. If you've got important customer data or your own data, and you sign up to a service, a cloud-based service, then if you turn that service off, where's your data? Can you extract it? And in what format can it be extracted? And if a customer says to you, where's my data? You're able to tell them and you're able to delete it if that's required. So it's a big responsibility for your own data. So it's a really important question to ask. And also understand the total cost of ownership. It might start cheap, it might start free. But if you grow or if your requirements change, if you need your customers to see what you're doing, if you need to produce reports, etc., etc., if you need to integrate this with something else, there may be costs. So understand what the cost of ownership is, rather than, oh, it's free for one user. Be aware of what that total cost will be. So the software tools that you can think about here, Trello. Trello is a really easy one, and that's what I've just used this for. That's Trello. So it's dead easy to use. You may well have used it before in the past. it's a good Kanban board. You can create cards really quick and you can move them across. Create your columns to do, doing, done, and just work it that way. As long as you can set reminders on them, so you'll get alerts to say, hang on a minute, you're missing these due dates of this activity. There's a desktop and mobile version. It's really good drag and drop. The activity cards are really good. There's no reporting, so if you want to create reports on how efficient your different projects are, you can't really do that, but it's a good starting point. So it's a good stepping off point if you want to create your first Kanban board. There are lots of integrations that you might use. So if you use Slack or Microsoft Teams or something like that, it'll trigger into those. If you can hook it up to your Outlook. So if you need a reminder, it sends you an email, etc., etc. It's a generous free tier. You can use it for free, and it gives you quite a few boards. So that's great. You can invite people to those boards, but then it starts to get expensive if you're not careful. So be aware of that. But if you've not got anything and you've not signed up to Microsoft Office 365, I would say go for Trello. Okay. The other one is if you are signed up to Office 365 already, there is something called Microsoft Planner, which already sits within Microsoft, and it's free to use if you've already paying for it. I know I was saying no free tier. You can't just use it without paying for Office 365. It's a Kanban board, very similar to Trello, not as user-friendly, not as attractive as Trello, but it does integrate really, really well with Teams if you use Microsoft Teams, or if you use your Microsoft other applications like Microsoft Word or Excel. You can embed documents. You can do that with Trello as well, but it's just a neater way of doing it in Microsoft Planner. And we started with Trello and we use Microsoft Planner because we discovered we were already paying for it. So why would we pay for another service? And then there's something which is a little bit more sophisticated. If you're a little bit more au fait with managing Kanban boards and managing scheduling time and projects, something called Asana, and that's really that's the software of choice for many. It's very similar to Trello, just a bit better. Workflow and task management, so you can create tasks, you can assign responsibilities, you can create triggers, so an email trigger to when it's done to a customer if necessary. They have a web and mobile version. It's very similar to Trello. It's just a bit. There's a few more bells and whistles to it. It has a Kanban board view. It also has a Gantt chart view, if that's what you want to see. So you can switch between the two. As you build up a project, you can sort of see a Gantt chart as well. It has a mobile and web version, and it integrates with a large number of third-party applications like Google and Apple. So they're the tools that you can start with. There are plenty of others, but if this is something that you are keen on doing, trying to get more out of your time, and you're overrun with how am I going to manage these projects, or how am I going to manage my time on the tasks that I have to do, this is a great way of doing it. You don't have to make everything agile in your business, and nor do you have to adhere to it so strictly. But it's a very good way, and given the time you've got, why not pick on a thing that you've got, either a project or a job, whether that be in business or personally, to say, okay, whether that's for a customer or for yourself, let's just try it this way. Does it work better for me? And will I get through it quicker? For us, it's 30% improvement, without a doubt, and because of all the things that I've explained. So here's some additional resources. Now, Agile, if it's something you're really into, there's a methodology called Scrum, and that's something that we adhere to in our business, and that is basically Agile, and it just talks to you in more detail about some of the other elements to managing and doing it in a project managing in an Agile way. It's a really short book, so if it's of interest to you, I recommend getting that book. The guy that wrote the book created Scrum, so it's just a methodology that's, if you're into project management, it's worth a read. And then this is a good link on Forbes website. how to use a Kanban board to become insanely productive, a short guide. So they're not going to be too dissimilar to what I've just described, but there might be a few more insights. There are a few more insights into what I've just gone through quite briefly. So I would certainly, if it's of interest, I would certainly recommend you spend a bit of time. Dead easy to do. It's really, really easy, and it's not something that should take up less time in terms of project and planning, because it's just a list of tasks that you're moving across. Yeah, so it's worth, and don't expect to be perfect at it from day one. It doesn't work that way. Okay, so I think that more or less concludes. I've got a space for questions. I have seen that there's no questions that have popped up on the chat. Has anyone got any questions? Please do raise them now. Rebecca, no, have you spotted any questions, Rebecca?
I've not seen any.
Okay. Has everyone sort of switched me off, or are they? No, still no questions. Doesn't look like it. Okay. Well, everyone's still there. I can see you all there. So hopefully, it's been of benefit. And if you do have any questions that you either think of in the future or don't want to ask in a public forum, please do. I'll put my email here. And you can email me direct. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you have. And I can share project board templates with you, so Kanban board templates with you. I can show you, or I can review yours as well if you want, if you've already started it, and I can give you some advice on it. I'm more than happy to do that. So yeah, drop me an email and I'll answer it, no problem at all. Okay, that's great. Well, if there's no questions, I will push it across again to you, Rebecca. I'll just give it, just click this. There we go. Over to you, Rebecca.
Hi everyone. Yes, so if you're wanting further support, then please do give us a call or send us an email to the email address or the telephone numbers attached. We will be running further webinars through May, so we will be pushing those out and contacting you via email very shortly. Hope you've enjoyed today, and thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. And good. Mo is going to have a go. Good on you, Mo. Have a go. Make him one. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Okay.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.